For those of you that have been here for a while, you probably remember a little while back my first video talking about the company Holy Boards. How they started with an initial design, but over time have progressively started making new different designs in terms of their pedal boards. And with those variations of designs, one of the things they did was a collaboration with the company Third Man Hardware. Structurally, the board isn't any different than the ones they already had to offer, but the one that was a collaboration between them and Third Man had the very distinct shade of yellow that's associated with that company. And this wouldn't be the company's only collaboration that they would do, as they went on later to do collaborations on guitar pedals from companies like MXR, Copper Sound Pedals, Mantix Effects, Union Tube and Transistor, and Game Changer Audio. Although the thing about most of these collaborations is that the pedals themselves, they'd be a bit pricey to the consumer. Like, this is the Third Man plasma coil from Game Changer Audio. I got my hands on this, but it cost me $350 to get. And the Third Man Edition Copper Sound Telegraph pedal that they put out, I really want to get that, but I believe that's over $400. But then a new collaboration was announced, one between Third Man Hardware and the company Donner. I've talked about Donner on this channel a number of times in the past, demoing some of their guitars that are budget brand instruments, and they make their own line of pedals as well. But in this case, the collaboration between the two companies was going to be for a multi-effect pedal, all analog circuitry, for $100. And so part of my brain just made the assumption that it was not going to be of the same quality as something like the Game Changer Audio Plasma Coil, something that was more expensive. And so I bought it. And so together, we're going to find out just what the deal is from the Third Man Hardware Donner Triple Threat. Here we go. Good afternoon. How's it going, everyone? I hope you've been doing well. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you're new, hi, I'm Miles. I do music stuff. And today we are going to be doing a demo and a review of a new piece of equipment in collaboration with the company's Third Man Hardware and the company Donner, the Triple Threat Analog Multi-Effect Pedal. Now, the pedal's layout is pretty straightforward, but let's go into the general specs of it before we actually start hearing what it sounds like. But before we do that, if you like seeing reviews like these and you like what I do here on this channel and you haven't already, be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It helps me, it helps the channel become more prominent in the dreaded algorithm. And it just makes it so that more people can see these videos on the regular when I put them out. So if you could do that, that'd be great. The Triple Threat is an all-analog multi-effect designed in collaboration with Third Man Hardware and Donner. It features 3 effects, those being Echo, Phaser, and Distortion. Now, for those of you that don't know, the company Third Man Hardware is actually a company that was started by Jack White from the White Stripes. And so when it came to making this pedal according to the instruction manual, he selected the 3 effects that he finds himself gravitating towards the most. This pedal design structurally originates from the Donner mini pedals and the Alpha Cruncher multi-effects pedal that Donner had previously released. So what we have here is a pedal that has 3 different effects built into it, an all analog circuit, which usually when I hear the term analog get thrown around, in my head, analog equates to expensive. Kind of like how when amplifier companies put out ham-wired amplifiers. It's the same circuitry and everything, but because it's ham-wired, just throw another 0 on that grand total of the price. But yeah, the companies allege that you have an all-analog circuit for 3 different effects that are built into this single enclosure, and it's perfect for the musician that's on the go. So with all of that out of the way, let's check this thing out. Here we go. When it comes to the distortion side of the triple threat, I think that it manages to accomplish that goal of covering a lot of ground without making the execution of covering all that ground super complicated. You're dealing with 3 knobs, just volume, gain, and tone. And the spectrum of sonic control that you have with each of those 3 parameters allows you to cover a lot of ground tonally in terms of the different styles of music you might be trying to apply this pedal to. It's also worth noting that each of these knobs for each of the different effects that are on here, they have like a little rubber ring around them. So when you go to turn them, you got some traction there. And so it also just like ensures that you're getting a good grip on each of the controls when you're going to grab them, since the knobs are so small. So I think that's a nice touch. And similarly, with the phaser section of the pedal, I found again that even with these simplistic controls, they surprisingly managed to cover a lot of sonic ground. And because the phaser is on an analog circuit, I believe that this is more complementary to the guitar versus it being a digital one, where in that case, you have the potential for the guitar to get kind of lost in the effect rather than the effect being complementary to the guitar, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Another thing worth noting is that while I was recording the demo for this video, when it came to the phaser section, I had noticed that there was a level control. And that's great because traditionally, in most cases, when it comes to phasers, what can happen is that if you're running an overdrive or distortion and then later on your signal chain you have a phaser, or I guess later on that way, you'll hear a definitive drop in volume once you engage the phaser. And the way to troubleshoot this in most cases is to either put the phaser itself in the effects loop of your amplifier or just put the phaser before your distortion. The problem with doing that is that it changes the tonal characteristics of how the phaser is interacting with the rest of your guitar signal. We're going from having a more textural modulation that's going on to this big whoosh over everything. And it really depends on what you're looking for from a phaser effect and what kind of phaser you have, because if it's like a phase 90 or something like that, it's really just kind of like an on-off button with a rate knob. But yeah, having a level control in this case just makes this pedal so much better. So kudos to Donner and Third Man Audio for making sure that was a part of the circuit. And last but not least, there's the delay section of the pedal. Because we're on an analog circuit, we're able to do one of my favorite things, which is bring the pedal to self-oscillation. Obviously, you could do this with a digital delay pedal. Most digital delays nowadays, they have an analog setting on them, or they're trying to emulate an analog delay anyway. But having an actual analog circuit, it's just got a different thing to it, you know? It's just got its own thing. Think like the Mars Volta Amputecture era. Like that kind of sound. But beyond that, this delay is versatile enough that it's capable of being a subtle backdrop to whatever you're doing on your guitar, or being a sonic wash of a soundscape, or a simple slapback. And as I had mentioned before, with all three of these effects, you can use them individually, obviously, but you can also use them in combination with each other, or you can use all three at the same time. So overall, from my findings with this pedal, it checked a lot of boxes that I really wasn't expecting to have be checked. For one, the pedal sounds really, really good. It doesn't sound cheap, and it also doesn't feel cheap. Usually when you're dealing with any effects that are not from Boss, and they're in the $100 range of prices, you're dealing with plastic components, and you got to kind of be careful with it. It's usually not the most durable thing, and it's usually not the best sounding thing either. But this particular pedal sounds very good, and you don't have to worry about like denting it if you step on it aggressively at a show. Don't, but if you do, you'll be good. And yeah, like, it's durable, it's lightweight, but with that said, in my personal experience with pedals of this size and this style, I think that they work best, for me personally, if they're strapped to some sort of pedal board, whether it be with Velcro or you're using like a Holy Board zip tie sort of thing. Because otherwise, what can happen is that it can move. It can tilt over, like you step over here and it flops over this way, or it moves and slides across the stage when you go to step on it. But I say all of that based on my previous experience using one of the fly rig pedals from Tech 21. They're a similar design where you have, I think, 3 or 4 effects in this strip, in this line, that like you could just throw in your backpack or whatever. But the problem was that the knobs were too small, they were too easily moved, and the buttons on the pedals, they weren't this style, they were more like buttons. So like, there was no, it's like, it wasn't tactile. I didn't know whether or not I turned on a certain thing or turned it off. It was very annoying, and it was so lightweight that I would step on it and it would move. And so it was a frustrating experience. But also, I have giant feet. I'm like a black Paul Gilbert. If you've ever seen Paul Gilbert's feet, you'll understand. Like, Google him. Don't Google Paul Gilbert feet, but like Google a picture of Paul Gilbert sitting down. You'll know. But yeah, in my case, when it comes to using these sort of small form effects, I just have to be careful and precise in terms of how I execute turning on or turning off something, so that I don't press on 2 things at once or like knock things all out of position and stuff. For you though, if you're bringing this pedal to a gig and you're not making a bunch of frantic changes between the 3 effects, you should be fine. Like most normal people should be fine with this pedal. I'm the exception. And yeah, for $100, this is a steal. I think I had to pay $10 for shipping for it, but other than that, $100. You got 3 effects built into one enclosure. It's great quality sound. There's no extra bells and whistles, which is nice. The included power supply, it's just a regular 9-volt power supply. So that means that you don't have to use that one exclusively. For those who remember the old whammy pedals, the power supply there, you could only use that one. And so if you were using it in conjunction with other pedals on a pedal board with like a Voodoo Labs power block, you'd have to use that auxiliary plug to plug in the power supply for this one pedal. It was a whole thing. I'm glad they changed it, but it was dark times. Anyway, because you don't have that problem here, it means that this is versatile enough that you can just take it anywhere. If you got to go and play a fly gig somewhere and you can't bring any gear with you, like you have to use whatever backline amp they have, but you want to have some versatility as far as effects, this would be the best $100 you'll spend probably any day, in my opinion. Or if you're just getting into using effects with your guitar. In this case, rather than going to the local music store and being convinced to buy every single Boss pedal they have on the rack, you have access to a delay, a phaser, and a distortion. And the parameters of each of the effects are very expressive and versatile. So you can have an idea of the sounds that you're looking for. And then when you go to check out other things, you'll have a better idea of what additional colors are being added to the base level of those effects. So I think this would also work as a good gift for anyone you know that's a young guitar player that wants to get loud and get weird. But with all that said, that's all I got for you guys for today. Shout out to Donner and Third Man Audio for this collaboration. This is great. I really like this pedal. I'm glad that I was able to get my hands on it. If you can, there's a special edition yellow version of this pedal that's out there in the wild somewhere. I think that costs a little bit more, but if you're looking to spend $110 on a great set of effects in one pedal, this is the way to go. Hopefully you found today's video to be interesting and informative, and if you haven't already and you want to support this channel, please do so by hitting those like and subscribe buttons down below. As I said before, it's free. Help a brother out. And if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support the channel further than just liking and subscribing, I'll leave a link down below in the description to my Patreon page where you can check out the perks that will be attached to your support over there. That's all for now, everyone. Big shout outs to Donner and Third Man Hardware and all my patrons that make these videos possible. Seriously, you guys make this so much easier to make happen. That's all I have for you for today. I hope to see you in the next one. You all stay safe. Keep playing. Peace.